What's up, guys? We're here at AMC Town Square with Chasing Cinema.
Mr. James Shoot.com,
and we're here to talk about Damien Chazelle in his third outing.
Yes.
With his second outing with Mr. Ryan Gosling in
Yes. I was going to say Ryan Reynolds. I'm glad you said that. Yeah, Ryan Gosling and the woman who's going to be replacing...
Why you gotta do that, dude? We're trying to record and have a good time. We're trying to talk about good movies.
The girl who kicked the hornet's nest.
Like, just set me up. That's not what it's called either.
What is that one?
The girl with the spider's web.
Ah, you're right.
That's the third one.
That's the third one. Yeah. It was a stretch. Anyway.
Clarify, by the way.
And we're going to be talking about the Apollo 11 lunar landing.
Neil Armstrong, baby.
Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin.
Okay. Now, let me say this.
Okay.
So I'm a huge, like in my top 50 minimum movies of all time, Apollo 13. Tom Hanks.
Good space movie.
Me and my sisters have probably watched that at least, without exaggeration, on VHS probably 100 times.
Yeah.
Love that movie. I can recite lines if it's playing and annoy you. To that level, right? Love it.
Which is interesting because I think I've only seen it maybe twice in my life.
Love that movie. So I really love that.
Yeah.
Then you add on Damien Chazelle, where I adore Whiplash, because I'm a drummer, and for me, I was watching, I was like, yeah,
I always forget you're a drummer.
That is how that was. And then he came out with a movie that made it my top 10 of all time, La La Land.
Yes.
Right. So you have this director that made 2 for 2 for me, and then you have a subject matter that I love. And then when I was told about his third movie, which was this, I was just like.
So basically, yeah, if someone was like...
I got sour, bro.
If someone's like, okay, let's make a movie. Let's make James Shue's ideal movie.
Yeah.
This would be it, technically.
And then when they said it was about Neil Armstrong, I was like, yeah, we know he made it to the moon.
Yeah.
Oh, really? So is this a movie that I need... by the way, I watched...
Bad Times at El Royale.
Bing! So you can watch my review of that.
Crazy Weeks
Chasing
events
didn't watch that.
Made us switch it up, so we did 2 separate movies, which is fun.
So do I, today being Friday morning, because we just... got out. Do I need to watch this tonight at AMC Town Square?
I don't know if you would like it. I mean, I think you dig it, but I don't think you love it. It definitely feels like kind of his most slowed down piece. Like, the pacing is kind of very calm, and the demeanor is very different than La La Land and Whiplash. For me, I know yours is Whiplash, La La Land. Mine's the opposite. Mine's Whiplash, La La Land. La La Land didn't do what it did for you, and obviously so many other people, because that was like a widely accepted, loved movie. Yeah. Nonetheless, you have a very, very talented dude. And I think the best thing to say about First Man is this is a movie about the nation kind of coming together to do this specific act through learning new technologies and breaking barriers as far as technological advances. In a time where we have like some of the most incredible filmmaking technology, and he reverts to not doing it very much. I can't say this with 100% accuracy, but in an interview, it was said that he used 0 green screen. Now, if you think about it, a movie where in the character which goes to the moon, I find that like really, really difficult.
I was watching this featurette.
The LED.
Yes, that looked amazing.
So what he did in placements of that was he had this huge LED screen, and that would be what is shown outside of the rocket or the ships that they're in. And that was
looked amazing,
awesome.
dog.
I mean, and there's not a moment in the movie where it doesn't feel real, where it looks kind of fake. I mean, it really, really kind of it's like, wow. And then eventually they build the set when they actually land on the moon. But here's the thing is, like, I know we were talking about it, but this movie is not so much about the dude landing on the moon. That is maybe 15 minutes of the movie, the actual landing. I'm not saying obviously the whole movie's about Neil Armstrong and his journey to the moon, and lunar to Apollo 8 and all the long missions it took for them to actually get there, and how Russia beat us, and with Sputnik, and like constantly competing with Russia to get to space. But this whole movie really is about a father who's grieving the loss of his daughter. So I don't know how much you know about Neil Armstrong.
Didn't even know that happened. I know now, but I didn't know that.
I watched this movie and I had no idea. And I do know that he had 2 sons, but that's because they are on press tour right now promoting this movie. But watching this, so the movie opens, and I don't think it's a spoiler, but you find out that he loses a daughter to cancer at a very young age. And this entire movie really is about his way of dealing with the loss of his daughter. And in that sense, it's a very, grounded, heartbreaking movie because I know we talked a bit before this because I didn't see it tonight, but I saw this movie and we were talking about it, and you had said that a lot of people were complaining that Ryan Gosling's performance doesn't have a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
But I think, obviously hearing that, I think that's the idea, is that this man is so shut off.
As you would be, right?
In way of dealing with his family and having to literally face the loss of his daughter, that the only appropriate place in the world for him is on the moon. Like, that's how much it's hard. That's how hard it is to deal with it. Jason Clarke is in this movie. There's a lot of other actors. He's good. He plays a really key character. But again, like, this movie is really just kind of about the loss this guy suffers. If you do know anything about the events that led up to the Apollo 11 lunar landing, a lot of things happened. A lot of pilots and members of NASA were lost, and trials and all of these things. And this whole movie is just really Ryan Gosling dealing with loss. And Claire Foy, who is really highly praised for her performance in The Crown, really has to kind of anchor this movie because she is the one that has to kind of show her emotions. So I think they're both equally good performances. I could see how people don't feel like Ryan Gosling was giving it all, but I think obviously as an actor he's methodically doing that. But Claire Foy obviously has these really great moments. I think the pinnacle of this movie is the scene right before Ryan Gosling leaves to actually do the mission where he'll eventually step on the moon, and he is about to pack up and leave, but he is getting yelled at by his wife because he's refusing to talk to his two sons and the fact that he might not come home. And the result is the four of them around the kitchen table in almost like what feels like a press interview about like addressing these things, because he's just so shut off emotionally that when his kids are asking him these questions about will you ever come back, what's going to happen when you come home, he has to go in quarantine and make sure that he doesn't bring any diseases or anything back, he just answers it like he's in a press conference. And I think that is the most telling, because Claire Foy, you could just read the emotions off her face and feel how like just upset and like knowing who she once loved and like how destroyed he was. These kids are trying to accept who their father is, but yet again can't get in, and how just blocked off he is. But also this kind of heartbreak that he might never see his family again. I mean, that is kind of where you're living in this movie.
Did you feel after watching the movie that they implied, whether it's true or not, we won't know? Did you feel though that they were implying that he was actually not a good father after his daughter died?
I don't think the movie implied...
No, you. How do you feel?
Well, like watching the movie, I don't think the movie implies that, but personally, no. I just think they kind of led you to believe that he was so emotionally detached at that point, that he wasn't emotionally available for his family.
And you wouldn't consider that a bad father?
It's hard for me to just kind of, I don't know if I would say that, just because this movie really kind of covers almost 12 years. Of time, and it really doesn't like have moment-to-moment basis. We don't see a lot of interaction with him and his kids. We see a lot of good memories that he'll kind of think back to, and then we kind of have these moments where he's just not around.
Because he's on NASA.
Because he's in, like, yeah, I mean, he's in Apollo 8. So, I mean, absentee father, I think, would be more of a better expression, only in this small portion of their kids' lives. I don't know what happened afterwards, So I would hate to make that kind of broad generalization, and, I'm sure it was tough, and I'm sure, I'm sure every family kind of has those moments and that stuff. So
yeah, 100%.
I wouldn't want to label Neil Armstrong, an American hero, a bad father, just because of what Damien Chazelle's movie kind of illustrated. Who really knows? Maybe he wasn't that shut off. And I'm sure there was a lot of good memories, but this movie obviously kind of harps on those moments where he's not emotionally available.
I would assume his sons also had to approve, or not had to, but I'm assuming.
Well, I'm sure they are somewhat involved. I mean, obviously they're press touring for this movie. They're interviewing people. They're talking.
Was
about
this based on a book?
I don't know if it was based off of a book. That's a good question. But I'm sure there's multiple books, but if there was an exact book, I don't know. But yeah, and in Buzz Aldrin, I think Buzz Aldrin is going to shock a lot of people. There was always this kind of stigma. I actually met Buzz Aldrin. He came to my elementary school and like did a big old talk, and I didn't even know really who. Like I didn't come to appreciate that experience until I was way older. But everyone kind of always joked that Buzz Aldrin was not a nice guy, kind of a jerk, and they really kind of pull that off here in this movie. They kind of really appeal to that. Who Buzz Aldrin is still alive. He's still around. So he's been kind of tweeting about this movie.
What does he think?
He just kind of he thinks there's a lot of truth to it, but I don't think they paint him in a very nice picture. Yeah, but overall, I think what you have here is a really solid movie. I think the way that Damien Chazelle really presented this movie is very different. And as a filmmaker, regardless if I like La La Land or not, which I didn't love La La Land, I thought it was fine. But this dude continues to push boundaries, continues to find new, exciting ways to tell stories, to really break into movies. You could look at those 3 movies, and while there are connections between them, they are so different. And it's pretty amazing that a director kind of this early into kind of his career has made such huge advancements and achievements with all 3 of these movies.
He's a good one.
Very, very talented dude.
He knows what he's doing.
But this was a movie, this is an experience where I walked in wanting to love a movie, and I was like, man, that was really cool how they did it, and there was a lot of really awesome parts. Visual, when Ryan Gosling is on the moon, the way that the moon looks and reflects off of his mask and all of that stuff, or helmet, whatever you want to call it, it's really, really intense and like really beautiful. But still, I think there was something that I just didn't allow me to love the movie and get so emotionally attached, like that I reacted to it in a way that was stronger than I did as A Star Is Born, for example. So good, I'd recommend it. The pacing is very kind of slow. It's very monotone. It's very kind of closed off when showing emotion, very much like Ryan Gosling. So I think it's intentional, but I think that could be hard for some people to watch. Plus, it's quite long, 2 hours and 20 minutes.
How long should it have been?
2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah.
Take 20 off.
I think you could take 20 off easy, but when you're. And the thing is where it's unlike your movie where we were talking Bad Times at Royale, like the last kind of 20 minutes when we're actually on the moon, where the whole movie we're trying to get, you're just kind of like, oh wow, can we stay here? But there's definitely some stuff in between.
What do you think about all those people that are saying that this movie's anti-America?
God, you want me to get political? So I don't understand that ideology at all.
The whole movie's like
this whole movie is
America,
like,
right?
This is what we did, and
So
from my
dog?
understanding is that people are mad that they don't show them actually place the flag in the moon.
Because there is a scene that does show
the flag is there,
but they
do not show.
They're saying that he's anti-American or something crap. Even though the whole movie's literally saying, haha, look how good we are as Americans.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely like a reflection on kind of the struggle that we went through at that time. There is like this kind of this very political commentary running through that seems to be very pro-America, obviously. And this is like arguably one of America's proudest achievements that we've ever conquered. Depending on how old someone is when you ask them, what's the greatest achievement that you've seen in your lifetime? What's the greatest spectacle? Most of an elder generation would say the day that we landed on the moon in 1969. So, I think it's kind of shocking, but I didn't care to give them the time of day to read what they really had to say because I think that's ludicrous.
No, it's stupid.
But
I just want to ask you.
Of course. But I think it's worth seeing. I just know you're going into a movie that is very kind of closed off emotionally.
What do you think I'm gonna give it 1 through 10? What do you think I'll give it?
A 7.
Okay.
That's I think it's slow, and I think that'll kind of put you off, and I think you won't find it as engaging. But the moments that are, you'll love.
Okay. Love it all.
Yeah.
All right.
Make sure to go check out this guy's review of Bad Times at El Royale.
I did that one.
Yeah.
Should people go watch that one?
Yeah, make sure to go click that review. And then next week, Halloween, Michael Myers, the Shape himself, returns to the big screen. We go back and visit.
How many are there?
Total?
Yeah.
So
all of them.
There was
Rob
8.
Zombie.
There was 8 movies in the original series run, unless you don't count Halloween 3.
All of
3.
them.
Okay. Well, Halloween 3 didn't have Michael Myers in it because Halloween was originally supposed to be an anthology. Let me break down some science for you kids. Halloween was supposed to be an anthology movie series that told scary stories. Halloween 1 and Halloween 2 were telling about Michael Myers and the Shape, which was he was originally called. Halloween 3 is about witches. Has nothing to do with Michael Myers. Received so much outrage from moviegoers and fans, they said, hey, we need to bring Michael Myers back for 4. So, like American Horror Story, you know how each season tells a completely different story? That's how Halloween was going to be.
Did not know that, thank you.
After the outrage of Season of the Witch 3, which Michael Myers isn't in, they brought him back and they made 8 movies total. So if you include Halloween 3, it's 8. If you not,
but he's
7.
in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yes.
Jeez.
4, 5, 6, H2O, and then Resurrection, and then we have Rob Zombie 1 and 2, and then we have now Halloween, which eliminates 2 through 8. And obviously the remakes, and kind of tells a direct.
So how many have there been? 10.
10 total.
How many of those 10 have you seen?
All 10.
Jeez.
Yeah, I'm a huge
10?
Halloween buff.
None.
I've watched none.
None? You haven't seen the
None.
original Halloween?
I know who he is.
Yes.
I've seen none.
We need to watch Halloween.
I just don't think I can. When did that come out? If there's
75.
Yeah. No, I'm not watching that.
Oh man, it's so good. So good.
I hope it
mean,
is.
really kind of starts the idea that, you kill the babysitter. Like, these whole horror tropes start with Halloween.
They all came from
there,
this.
There was no Jason, there was no Freddy when Halloween came out. John Carpenter really kind of created something new and fresh, and still who I think is the most terrifying slasher guy that exists in the horror franchise. I mean, Michael Myers.
Better
the
than
White
James
Race-
Wan?
No, I mean, it's in terms of like bad guys, Freddy Krueger, Jason.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, there is something so terrifying when there's a black or very, very dark black set, and you could just kind of see that white mask appear in the dark. Oh man, it gives me goosebumps just talking about it. So I'm hugely excited for this movie. I love to see what happens. I love the return of Jamie Lee Curtis, who, she was in Halloween 1 and 2. And then H2O and Resurrection 7 and 8, and a lot of people weren't happy where her arc went, but now we finally get to see how it would have changed, and how, according to Jamie Lee Curtis, this movie really is kind of this story about PTSD and how people deal with really, really tragic events in their life. We turn up 40 years later back in Haddonfield with Jamie Lee and Laurie Strode and see where she kind of is mentally. She has a granddaughter and a daughter, so there's 3 generations of Strodes dealing with this tragedy, and Michael Myers is back on the loose.
Love it.
Absolutely. I'm so pumped for it. So
All
make
right.
sure to text this guy and come, because it is Halloween, it is that time of year, so make sure to enjoy this movie because it is going to be a blast.
And as always, ChasingCinema.com is known as
The Film Lovers website.